At this point, musically, I was still performing on the streets of Greenville, and I was also talking with someone who curated a museum of historic instruments downtown, the Sigel Music Museum. This man was Tom Strange, and we were discussing the possibility of revamping the Beethoven project I had been planning to do that got cut short by COVID by essentially doing the concert series again throughout 2021, but this time recording them so that we wouldn't have to deal with the issue of gatherings with COVID going on.
And did you and Tom Strange solidify a plan for resurrecting the Beethoven project?
Yes, we did.
Just generally speaking, describe for the jury sort of the intensity of the schedule, the intensity of the lead up to that project.
Yeah, so as a classical musician, at least, just because you've played a piece doesn't mean that like you know it forever and you're never going to forget it and it's never going to cost you any more work. It would be like you may have run a marathon once before in your life, but if you haven't trained for a year, it's not going to be easy for you if you go and try to do it again. So I was going to have to relearn all of this repertoire because I had only been playing certain of the sonatas downtown. And with the recording schedule, I was going to be meeting with him. There was going to be other people and other equipment involved. So essentially, I was going to have to commit to a schedule where we'd meet more or less once a week to record one sonata a week throughout 2021 and stick to that schedule. So it was going to be strenuous and a lot of work, and I knew this going into it.
And when was the first recording set to occur on the project with Tom Strange?
I think around January 2021.
And beginning in January, how many performances on the project? What was the time frame on the remaining performances on the project?
Again, it was roughly one a week. These sonatas are not all the same length. Some are short as like 12 minutes. Others, one lasts about 45 minutes. So depending on the piece, we were allocating enough time for me to get ready.
All right, so let's talk about from, again, October to April of 2020. Describe to the jury what the communications were you were having with John Mello, the frequency of the communications. Just tell them about it.
Like I said, I was excited for there was distance in between them. And our communications had died off a bit after they left. John is interesting. He's also a lot. He's a very dramatic person, and it was a bit of a relief to just not be running into him downtown all the time because I had a lot of practice I was doing, and sometimes I didn't have time to hang out as much as he might have wanted to. So our communications petered out.
Were you relieved in some ways that your communications with him had slowed down or stopped?
To a degree, yeah.
All right. In April of 2021, did your communications with John and the frequency of them increase dramatically?
Yes.
Why did your communications with John increase dramatically in April of 2021?
Like I said, our communications had petered out, but they hadn't completely ceased. So he had let me know that some stuff with the family court in Greenville in order to try to get her daughter back. He was very worried that she might succeed in doing this for reasons I've already spoken about. And in April, he sent me a message, and it was clear from the text that he was very upset, just saying that
after he told you in April of 2020 to tell you in greater detail what his concerns were and more information about his concerns?
Yes.
What happened next?
At this point, I found myself in kind of a conundrum because, like I said, I had appreciated having some distance from John. But by the same token, I was becoming increasingly more concerned. Have wanted to not continue communicating with John for the sake of his daughter. I felt that I had a certain sense of responsibility to help him with what he was dealing with this custody battle for his daughter's sake. We began communicating probably every day, at least by text, often by phone calls. I was giving a lot of time towards hearing what he had to say, towards trying to help him in any way I could. Some of the things I did to help him were, first, he needed counsel. He needed a lawyer in family court. So I was calling a bunch of lawyers in Greenville, trying to find someone who could help him. And by help, he had left it with a tenant who absolutely trashed it. It was like nothing I'd ever seen. Like the air was hardly breathable. So I was buying a dehumidifier, getting cleaning supplies, hiring Mikey Manigo, who testified last week, to help me clean out his house so that he would have a place to show family court, and that he had a home that would be a safe place for a little girl and him to be living in. I told him when he came back, I'd pick him up from the airport. But notably, while we were having these conversations, he began to tell me in much more detail what his concerns were about Christina Parcell. And, well, in order for you to understand what my reaction was to what he was telling me, you need to know what my experience was with my oldest adopted sibling, Grace. So when we adopted these kids, we really didn't know much about them.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Sure.
All right, well, they're on a sidebar. Let's do this. Let's bring in our guest for this hour. Here to discuss from Los Angeles, California, we have trial attorney, friend of the program, Crystal Ramey. Nice to see you, my friend. All right, so the sidebar is because only so much can be brought in because the judge made it very clear that the defense cannot put on the defense strategy that they wanted in saying that the murder was committed or the killing was committed to save somebody else, save the child in this regard. The jury doesn't know the allegations, can't know the allegations of child abuse and child exploitation, the allegations rather. What do you think is going to happen next? How far down this road can he go?
He can't go into that, what the judge has said he cannot talk about. And it's going to be very difficult for him to explain the gravity of what he thinks is going on and why he thinks this child is in danger. In South Carolina, you can have this claim of imperfect self-defense. It might not get you an acquittal, but it could get you a lot lesser in terms of involuntary or voluntary manslaughter, which will, drastically reduce the number of years that he could spend in prison ultimately. And so he wants to be able to explain to the jury why he was in fear for her life and her safety. And it's going to be very difficult without getting into that you're kind of telling the jury a half-truth about why, he felt like her life was in danger if she was being exploited in the manner in which the allegations are this child was. So I think that it's going to be very tricky to do. I think this judge probably got this ruling wrong. I know that a lot of other legal analysts over the last couple of days have mentioned this as well, and I think that it's a bit of a automatic appeal issue, ultimately.
Yeah, it could be an appellate issue, but we have to get to the conviction part first.
Yeah.
He's on the stand, and he is one of the first witnesses out the gate. The defense chose to delay their openings to yesterday at the start of their case in chief. Do you think that that was part of their strategy because these late decisions by the judge in what their defense could be?
100%. I think that if you don't know what you can't tell a jury that you're going to do certain things or promise certain things if you don't know that you're going to be able to do that. So I think the defense wisely waited to give their opening statement, which is permitted, I think, in most jurisdictions, for the defense to wait to put on, because the defense doesn't have to put on any case at all. So I think it was pretty smart to do that.
And I have to fit in a break, but before we do, in short, how do you think he's doing, Krista?
I think that he's doing really well. He's just coming across as very cultured, sweet. You just don't envision him ruthlessly murdering someone in first degree, right?